My name is Adrian Kane. I'm 48 years old. And I'm sitting at the kitchen counter in a house that no longer feels like mine. The morning light cuts through the windows, glinting off the chrome appliances, and the marble island Savannah insisted we remodel 2 years ago. I always thought it looked sterile, cold, like a showroom, not a home. My phone is in my hand, the screen still lit from the video I've watched, twice. Savannah, my wife of 20 years, smiling like she's never smiled at me. She pans the camera to show off a diamond tennis bracelet that must have cost thousands. Then the shot widens, a luxury hotel suite behind her. Not her sister's Portland apartment like she told me. Not even close. A champagne glass tilts in her other hand. She laughs, tosses her perfectly styled hair. And then she says the words, "Don't worry, Adrian, you'll land on your feet." I did. And then the video ends. No apology, no explanation. Just confidence, like she's already won. I set the phone down, and I breathe. There's no shock, not really, just the quiet confirmation of something I've suspected for months, something I didn't want to admit to myself until now. See, I work in systems, IT infrastructure, data integrity. My job is to find the cracks, small anomalies that reveal something much bigger. And for the past year, I've been noticing the cracks at home. The weekend trips that got longer. The credit card charges in restaurants I've never heard her mention. The new fitness trainer. The new wardrobe. The text messages she laughed at like I wasn't even in the room. I noticed. And I started documenting. I get up from the counter and walk down the hallway to my home office. It's the one room in this house that still feels like mine. I unlock the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside is a red folder, thick, organized. Inside are bank statements, legal documents, investment transfers. The kind of paperwork most people never think to collect. Until it's too late. But I've had this folder ready for 4 months. Because Savannah never cared about the money. Not the details anyway, just the lifestyle. She'd sign anything I put in front of her, never asked questions, never followed up. She trusted me to manage the future while she lived in the moment. And that trust is about to become the most expensive mistake of her life. We met when we were both 28. She was electric sales pharmaceutical rep, the kind of woman who turned every head when she walked into a room. Me, I was quieter, deliberate, working back-end systems for a regional bank. Suits that didn't quite fit. A little too serious for most people's taste. But she liked that, or said she did. "You plan, I live," she used to tell me. And for a long time, that balance worked. I maxed out our retirement, built an investment portfolio, bought our home when the market dipped, created spreadsheets for every expense. She brought the energy, the connections, hosted dinner parties, planned trips, introduced me to people who eventually became my biggest consulting clients. We made it work, until she stopped trying. The first real crack, 5 years ago. A $300-400 charge on a credit card. A jewelry store in Seattle. Not near our anniversary, not her birthday, I asked. She smiled and said, "It's for my mother." But her mother came to visit 3 months later, no new jewelry in sight. I didn't press. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But I remembered. Over time, the excuses got thinner. Late work events, weekend conferences, texting at all hours. She started sleeping facing the other way. Stopped laughing at my jokes. Started smiling at messages I'd never see. I said nothing, but I prepared. 3 years ago, I took on a major contract with a cloud security firm, Axia Systems. Big money, big liability. So I formed an LLC. For legal insulation, I told Savannah. She nodded, signed what I gave her. What she didn't know was that I moved 70% of our assets into that LLC. Completely legal, entirely traceable, and only accessible by me. She didn't notice, never asked, and I kept documenting. 8 months ago, I saw the first red flag I couldn't ignore. Withdrawals from our joint account. Small at first. 120 here, $250 there. Then it escalated. 800, 200, 3,000. When I confronted her, she smiled softly. "I've been feeling lonely," she said. "Shopping helps." That night, I saw her scrolling on her phone, smiling at something I couldn't see. I didn't ask. I just moved the last of our liquid assets out of reach. This morning I called our bank. The representative's voice changed the moment I said my name. Mr. Kane, we were just about to contact you. There's been some suspicious activity on your joint retirement account. I'm aware, I said. My wife attempted to liquidate it, without my consent. The pause on the other end said everything. In that case, sir, we'll begin a fraud report immediately. I can initiate a freeze on the account. Please do. And just like that, Savannah's exit strategy hit its first wall. I opened my laptop and pulled up a document I'd drafted months ago. Divorce petition. Incomplete. Waiting for a reason I now had in HD video. I updated the dates, added new financial notes, saved the file. Tomorrow my lawyer would receive everything. A message buzzed through. Savannah, did you get my message? I didn't respond. I just stood up and walked through our house. Really walked it. The furniture she picked, the art I never cared about, the kitchen I never used. It wasn't a home, it was a stage set, and I'd played my role too well for too long. That night I slept in the guest room, on sheets that smelled like clean linen instead of her perfume. And for the first time in years, I slept soundly. 3 days passed, and in those 3 days I didn't say a word to Savannah, but she said plenty. My phone lit up with a dozen messages, then 24 texts, emails, voicemails, all with the same frantic tone. Why can't I access our retirement account? The bank is saying there's been fraud. You need to call me back, right now. I didn't reply. My lawyer Marcus Lee had advised total silence. Everything needed to be clean, documented, controlled. So I let the storm gather, and waited. On the fourth morning, my doorbell rang. 7:03 a.m. I opened the door to find Savannah standing there. No diamond bracelet this time, no champagne smile, just smudged eyeliner and a designer coat that looked slept in. She stepped inside before I could say anything. What did you do? She hissed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I simply said I reported unauthorized access to our accounts. Her laugh was bitter. I'm your wife, Adrian. That money belongs to both of us. I nodded slowly. That account required dual authorization for withdrawals over $10,000. You weren't going to miss it, she snapped. We had over 900 grand in there. I looked her dead in the eye. It had 910,000. Until you forged my signature. Her face changed. The mask cracked. And beneath it, I saw calculation. You can't prove that. I stepped back. The bank has the paperwork. I have the video of you celebrating your escape plan. And now the fraud division has frozen the account pending full investigation. She tried a new tactic. Voice soft, eyes wide. Adrian, this is a misunderstanding. I got carried away. I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were clear enough to plan this for months, I said. Clear enough to move out piece by piece. Clear enough to try and empty our future behind my back. She moved toward me. We can fix this. I don't want to lose everything. Whatever you think is happening with Tyler. I cut her off. I filed for divorce. The paperwork will be served today. Her hands dropped, the softness gone. You'd have nothing without me, she spat. You were just some boring IT guy with spreadsheets. I made you look successful. I almost smiled. And yet somehow I managed to protect our entire financial portfolio from your little con. Now her voice was shaking. There was over 900,000 in that account, Adrian. No, I said. There was 160. The rest was never in that account. Her eyes widened. I watched it hit her. What? Where's the rest? I walked to my desk, opened a locked drawer, pulled out a single sheet of paper. You signed these transfers 3 years ago. Everything is in the LLC now, under my control, legally and transparently. She picked up her phone frantic, opened banking apps, typed furiously. Nothing. Where is it? In accounts you never bothered to learn the passwords for, I said. Tied to a company you dismissed as a boring little side project. Then came the final blow. You planned for this, she whispered. I paused. I protected us from risk. Business risk. Divorce just happened to fall into that category. She screamed, threw her phone at the wall. It bounced harmless. You think you've won. Tyler has money. He has real connections. I nodded. Then you'll land on your feet, just like you said in your video. She left an hour later. Not before trying to log into my laptop. Not before trying to take papers from my desk. I changed the locks that afternoon. The next day I made 2 calls. The first two, Jenna Cross, a forensic accountant I'd worked with during a corporate fraud case 2 years ago. She picked up on the second ring. I need you to trace some activity, I said. Discreetly and fast. She didn't ask questions. Just said, send me what you have. I'll start tonight. The second call was to Marcus. We reviewed the divorce filing, added documentation about forged withdrawals, and began assembling a financial audit for the court. Marcus asked, do you want to pursue criminal charges? I didn't answer right away. I was still weighing the cost. Let's prepare everything. But hold the trigger. 2 days later, Jenna called back. I have something, she said. We met in her office just off the Blue Ridge Parkway. The blinds were half closed. The room filled with spreadsheets and silent tension. She handed me a folder. She's been siphoning funds for nearly a year. $94,000. Pulled in small amounts. Always just under the alert thresholds. Transferred to an external account. And here's the kicker, she said, flipping to a page with highlighted numbers. About $23,000 of that went directly to this man. She turned her laptop. On the screen, Tyler Monroe, 42 years old. Regional manager. Echolink Systems. Lives in Seattle. Divorced. No kids. This guy has a pattern, Jenna said. 2 previous relationships with married women, both working in partner companies, both involving financial transfers before divorce filings. I stared at the screen. Tyler, the man in the hotel suite. The man Savannah risked our future for. He wasn't just a fling. He was a con. She might be complicit, Jenna said. Or she might be his next victim. I nodded. Either way, I had everything I needed. That evening I drove home in silence. My hands steady, my mind clear. This wasn't about pain anymore. It was about precision. Tyler Monroe wasn't just an affair. He was a blueprint. A pattern with a face. Jenna Cross had uncovered everything 2 previous women, same strategy, same tactics. Wealthy, often neglected, emotionally vulnerable, and always tied to accounts they didn't fully understand. In both cases, he'd ingratiated himself, then guided them toward separation. They paid for apartments, gifted jewelry, transferred investments, all while Tyler whispered about new beginnings. When the relationships ended, or when the money ran out, he ghosted them. And now, it was Savannah's turn. The day after Jenna's report, I sat across from Marcus Lee in his downtown Asheville office. He flipped through the folder line by line, calm but focused. This changes everything, he said. We're not just looking at divorce and fraud. We're looking at a possible conspiracy to defraud. I nodded. And Tyler's done it before. Marcus tapped his pen against the desk. We can proceed 3 ways, he said. 1. Finalize the divorce and use this to secure favorable terms. 2. Press criminal charges against Savannah and Tyler. 3. Use this as leverage to settle quietly and possibly recover the funds. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling for a moment. And the other women, I asked. From the earlier cases. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You want to involve them? He's not going to stop, I said. He'll find another woman, another account. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. He nodded slowly. Then we reach out. By the end of the week, we'd connected with 2 attorneys. Both women, Monica and Elise, had agreed to share financial records and sworn statements. Both painted the same picture. Emotional seduction, financial grooming, isolation, then extraction. Jenna helped consolidate timelines, transfers, emails, receipts, screenshots. Every detail added another nail. And it all pointed to one conclusion. Tyler Monroe was a predator. Meanwhile, Savannah's messages shifted tone. She'd gone from silence to sudden warmth. From venom to remorse. Adrian, please, I need to talk. There's something you don't understand about Tyler. He's not who I thought he was. I didn't respond, but I forwarded every word to Marcus. Then 2 days later, Savannah showed up. Not at my home, at my office. She was standing outside the front door at 6:45 p.m., arms folded, eyes sunken. I almost didn't stop, but something told me to listen. She fell into step beside me as I walked toward the garage. You were right, she said softly. I said nothing. Tyler lied about everything. His job, his finances, even his last name sometimes. I spoke to one of his exes. Monica, I asked, still walking. She stopped. I turned to face her. You knew. I knew before you left the hotel, I said. She blinked, stunned. Adrian. I didn't know. I swear, I thought he cared about me. I thought I was starting over. By draining our retirement account. She didn't have a response. Only a quiet shake of the head. I sighed. Savannah, you weren't the only one he played. But you still helped him. You signed the papers. You made the transfers. He told me to, she said. He said it was normal, that people in consulting always moved funds like that. I didn't think. That's the problem, I cut in. You never thought, you just acted. You trusted the first person who told you what you wanted to hear. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry. I nodded. But I didn't forgive. Not yet. Later that night, I sat on my porch overlooking Pisgah Forest. The air was crisp, the mountains dark silhouettes under a full moon. And for the first time since this began, I felt something deeper than anger. I felt purpose. The next morning, we made it official. Marcus filed supplemental documentation with the family court. Financial misconduct, evidence of conspiracy, sworn affidavits from 2 other victims. Savannah's legal team didn't respond for 3 days. When they did, the tone had changed. No more bravado, no more posturing. Just a request. Would Mr. Kane consider private mediation? We did, but only under very specific conditions. At mediation, Savannah looked different. Tired, smaller, like the weight of everything had finally found her shoulders. Tyler wasn't with her. He was facing his own battles now after Jenna's report was forwarded to Echolink Systems and to the North Carolina Fraud Division. Their internal compliance team had opened an ethics investigation. Tyler was on unpaid leave, and the DA's office was reviewing our file. Marcus laid out the terms. Adrian keeps full ownership of all LLC assets. Adrian retains the primary residence and 90% of the portfolio. Savannah agrees to restitution payments totaling $94,000. In exchange, Adrian waives criminal prosecution. For now. Savannah read the terms. And then, without speaking, she signed. Later, Marcus and I sat in the conference room. He poured 2 glasses of water. This isn't the end, he said, but it's closure. I nodded. It's justice, I said. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that just works. Back in my truck, I stared at the dashboard. The keys sat in my hand. But I didn't turn the ignition right away. I just breathed. 20 years of marriage. 6 months of betrayal. And now, peace. Not victory. Not joy. But peace. And sometimes, that's enough. The courthouse in Asheville sits on a hill. Nothing grand, just solid stone and glass, clean lines, no distractions. Like it was designed for one thing only, truth. The hearing was set for a Tuesday morning at 10:00 a.m. I arrived early. Not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to walk through the doors calm, focused, and unshaken. I had spent too long being controlled by emotion. This moment would be about facts. Savannah and Tyler were already there when I entered. They sat at the respondent's table. She looked pale, her eyes flicking from him to the door, then back again. Her hair was pulled back too tight, her hands clutched together in her lap. Tyler, on the other hand, looked annoyed. Like someone who had been inconvenienced. Like someone who thought the rules didn't apply to him. His arrogance filled the room like a cologne. But when his eyes met mine, something flickered. He looked away first. That told me everything I needed to know. The judge entered. A woman in her 60s. Silver-rimmed glasses. Steady voice. No nonsense. This court is now in session. Kane v. Kane and Monroe. Financial petition for dissolution with allegations of fraud and misconduct. Marcus Lee stood beside me. He placed the folder on the table like a quiet declaration of war. Your Honor, Marcus began, we submit documented evidence of financial misconduct by both Mrs. Savannah Kane and Mr. Tyler Monroe. These include unauthorized withdrawals, forged authorization documents, and transfers of marital assets totaling over $94,000. He handed the folder to the bailiff. The judge flipped through the first few pages. Her eyes moved like a scanner. Continue. The funds were traced by forensic accountant Jenna Cross. We've included her full report. Additionally, Mr. Monroe has been identified in 2 previous incidents involving similar behavior. Manipulation of married women for financial gain, followed by asset diversion. He paused. We have affidavits from those women, as well as bank records confirming the patterns. The judge held up a hand. Let me read. The room fell into silence as she reviewed. 5 minutes passed, then 10. She closed the folder, looked directly at Tyler. Mr. Monroe, she said, do you dispute these allegations? He cleared his throat. Your Honor, I was in a consensual relationship with Mrs. Kane. I had no knowledge of her financial decisions. The judge raised an eyebrow. Yet $23,000 from her accounts were transferred directly into yours. Gifts, he said. From a married woman. He hesitated. The judge continued. This court has evidence of forged financial documents, digital footprints linking Mr. Monroe to the preparation of withdrawal forms, and email communication suggesting coordinated movement of funds prior to a planned divorce. She turned toward Savannah. Mrs. Kane, did you understand what you were signing when you authorized those transfers? Savannah's voice was almost a whisper. No, Your Honor. The judge leaned forward. Did Mr. Monroe instruct you to sign them? She glanced at him, then at me, then back down. Yes. Tyler's jaw clenched. The judge nodded. Given the volume and clarity of evidence, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for further review regarding financial exploitation and conspiracy to commit fraud. A beat of silence followed. Then she added, in the meantime, all joint marital assets are frozen. Mr. Kane retains control of LLC-based assets as separate property. Restitution of $94,000 is to be scheduled in structured payments. She looked at Savannah. You may avoid criminal charges if you fully cooperate with the investigation. Then she looked at Tyler again. You, however, may not. Tyler stood abruptly. This is insane. You people don't know who you're messing with. The bailiff took a step forward. The judge didn't even flinch. Please remove Mr. Monroe if he cannot remain civil. He stopped, sat back down. But the smirk was gone. Savannah said nothing as she left the courtroom. She didn't look at me, didn't try to explain. Maybe because she knew there was nothing left to say. Outside, Marcus and I walked toward the parking lot. The air was heavy, overcast, a storm just waiting to break. He handed me a copy of the ruling. You okay? I nodded. It's strange, I said. What is? I thought I'd feel something bigger. Satisfaction. Closure. But it just feels like walking away from a fire you finally put out. Marcus gave a small nod. Sometimes that's the best ending you can get. That night, I sat on the deck of my cabin outside Pisgah. The fire pit burned low. The woods were quiet. I stared at the court documents sitting on the table beside me. Not out of spite, not to gloat, but to remember. That silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes, it's control. A week later, I received a message from Leah Donovan, the project manager I'd met during a consulting job 3 months earlier. We'd only shared coffee and conversation. But there was something in her directness, clarity, no games. Her message was simple. Still on for Friday, I replied. Definitely. I wasn't looking for anything serious. Not yet. But I was open. And after everything, that felt like progress. 6 months had passed. The leaves had turned, then fallen, then returned in spring. Life kept moving the way it always does when you're no longer fighting to hold it in place. I stood on the porch of my small cabin near Pisgah, the air just cool enough to bite, just warm enough to remind me I was still here. The court case was over. Savannah had taken a plea deal, limited financial liability, no jail time, in exchange for full cooperation with the district attorney. Her name would carry a stain for a long time, but she avoided prison. Tyler Monroe wasn't so lucky. With 3 former partners testifying financial records from all of us and a complete forensic trail built by Jenna Cross, the state had what they needed. He was convicted of financial exploitation and conspiracy to commit fraud, sentenced to 5 years. It wouldn't give back what he took, not just the money, but the trust, the time, the quiet things he eroded without even blinking. But it was something. And sometimes something is enough. My business had grown during the chaos. Funny how crisis sharpens your focus. I took on 3 new consulting clients in the last quarter. I hired 2 full-time staff. I no longer worked out of a converted bedroom. I had an office, a nameplate, and for the first time in years, no one second-guessing me across the dinner table. I didn't say that with bitterness, just truth. Savannah. She moved back to Oregon. Took a job with a mid-tier pharmaceutical distributor a long way down from where she'd once stood pitching products in sky-high boardrooms. We hadn't spoken since the final settlement, and I didn't plan to. Forgiveness is a personal thing, but forgetting, that's optional. There was one thing I did keep, though. A photo from years ago. Me and Savannah. On our honeymoon. We were standing on the edge of a pier in Charleston, wind in her hair, my hand on her waist. Both of us laughing at something neither of us can probably remember now. I didn't keep it out of nostalgia. I kept it because it reminded me of how easy it is to believe in something. and how quickly that belief can be exploited when it isn't checked. Trust isn't a one-time gift. It's a contract, renewable daily. Friday night, I met Leah Donovan at a quiet little spot in downtown Asheville. Wood tables, soft lighting, real conversation. She was wearing jeans and a blazer. Minimal makeup, the kind of woman who didn't sell anything she couldn't deliver. We didn't talk about exes. We talked about projects, about music, about the weird feeling of starting over in your 40s when everyone around you seems to be settling into routines. She smiled at one point and said, "You don't seem broken." I laughed. That's because I let it break me when it needed to. Then I built something better. Back home, I stood in the kitchen, the real kind, not the one Savannah once curated like a showroom. This one was warm, lived in, mine. I poured a glass of wine, sat at the table, opened my laptop, and wrote something I hadn't touched since this all began. A personal journal entry. Just 4 words. I kept my name, not my company name, not a brand. My integrity, my balance, my quiet. You see, people think revenge is loud, sharp, swift, explosive. But the real kind, the kind that lasts, is subtle. It's legal paperwork filed at 800 a.m. It's bank authorizations reviewed at midnight. It's not arguing, it's documenting. And most of all, it's walking away when the fire's out, not when you're out of matches. A few weeks later, I got a letter. From Savannah. No return address. Inside a typed note. Just 1 paragraph. I know saying I'm sorry won't undo anything, but I am. Not just for what I did, but for who I became. I never saw you clearly until you were gone. I hope you find peace. I'm trying to do the same. I read it once, folded it carefully, placed it in the same drawer where I'd kept our original marriage certificate. Not as closure, but as record. Because stories like mine, they don't end with fireworks. They end with paperwork, with keys returned, with silence that finally feels peaceful instead of punishing, and with a man sitting alone on a porch, no longer bitter, just aware that survival is sometimes the cleanest form of justice. Final reflection. To those who've been betrayed by a spouse, a partner, a friend, know this. You don't need to destroy someone to win. You just have to stop letting them destroy you. Walk away. Lock the door. Keep your name.